Since Her Majesty passed away on the 8th of September, a week ago Thursday, the High Commission here from Canada House has been dealing with all of the immediate events that had to be taken care of during what has proven to be an incredibly busy memorial week for Her late Majesty. We were extending Canada's first condolences, dealing with the work of the Accession Council, which met very quickly after the Queen had died. We attended to Canada's first audience with His Majesty King Charles, attended the first address of King Charles to the UK Parliament, which incidentally took place earlier this week in Westminster Hall, in the very place where Her late Majesty is now lying in state. And then there was the official opening of that process of lying in state. And I think you will have noticed that the palace and the new king are extensively involving not just the devolved territories within the United Kingdom and the other territories over which there is direct rule, but also the countries in the Commonwealth, and particularly the 14 countries that make up the realms, where Her Majesty, now His Majesty, is the head of state. So we were invited to that first address by King Charles, and then invited to participate in the opening of the lying in state. So that was on Wednesday afternoon, and it was a great honor on all of those occasions to represent Canada and to make sure that our country was fully engaged in the process. Now, of course, as you know, the Governor General and the Prime Minister have arrived, and most of the Canadian delegation is here as well. And I think you know what that list is: 2 former Governors General, 4 former Prime Ministers, 3 leaders of the national indigenous organizations, the former High Commissioner here in the UK and now the Clerk of the Privy Council, Janice Charette, and 4 representatives of Canadian honours, Mark Tewksbury, Gregory Charles, Sandra Oh, and Leslie Arthur Palmer. These 20 people make up the official Canadian delegation at the state funeral. There will also, in addition, within Westminster Abbey, there'll be roughly 20 more Canadians who will represent the various military regiments or units for which Her Majesty was the honorary colonel. We will, in the procession that will leave Westminster Abbey and carry the Queen's casket through London until the transfer point. In that final procession through London, Canada will have the largest number of military participants from outside of the UK. The UK will obviously have the largest number, but Canada will have the second largest number in the procession, very close to 100. And then at the top of that procession, there will be the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, 4 officers, members of the musical ride, who will be riding 4 horses that were gifted by the Mounties to the Queen over the course of the last number of years. Specifically on the events of today, the morning began with a lot of meetings and briefings with various members of the official delegation, and then, as you know, over the noon hour, the official Canadian delegation visited at the lying in state. That included the Governor General and Mr. Fraser, the Prime Minister, and Ms. Gregoire Trudeau, and myself and my wife. That was the official Canadian presence for the lying in state. The Governor General then went to lunch with His Majesty. together with other governors general from the realm countries. The Prime Minister, at the same time, headed off to sign the official condolence book, which is in Lancaster House, right next to St. James Palace. And he not only signed the condolence book, but taped a special message of condolences on behalf of all Canadians. The Governor General attended at Lancaster House later in the afternoon, also to sign the condolences book, and the Prime Minister had his own first audience with His Majesty the King this afternoon. So that is basically where we are at. For tomorrow, the Prime Minister has a number of bilateral meetings scheduled with other leaders who are here, most particularly with Prime Minister Truss, but also with his counterpart from Australia and with the Prime Minister of Ukraine later in the day. He will also be meeting with some representatives of the military contingent. They are busy rehearsing and practicing at various locations, so it's difficult to get them all together. But the Prime Minister will meet with some of the Canadian military representatives that are here, and then later in the day, His Majesty is hosting a reception, which we will be participating in. So that's what I know at this moment.
Can you tell us more what happened during this private conference with
I can't, because he hasn't told me yet. The subject matters, though, if I were thinking of the conversations that I had earlier in the week with His Majesty, clearly the Prime Minister would want to extend very sincere condolences on behalf of Canada. In the first conversation that he would have with His Majesty, you saw the intensity of the Prime Minister's personal reaction when he first received the news back in Canada just over a week ago. That intensity, I'm sure, would continue. It was very authentic, very genuine, and they would no doubt exchange a lot of memories about the connections that they have had with each other and with each other's families over the course of the years. There's no doubt, judging from my initial conversation with the new king, that he remains intensely interested in issues related to the environment and the crucial battle against climate change. He is very much aware of the very great importance in Canada of reconciliation and healing with Indigenous people, and the important role that the Crown plays in that very vital issue. And it's a subject that he dealt with in his visit to Canada earlier this year. It's very much on his mind and will continue to be an important topic for him to want to deal with.
So you're saying the very important role the Crown plays in that relationship. What is that role in your sense? What should you...
Well, from the point of view of Indigenous people, as they have explained it to me, they see their relationship not with any particular government, but with the Crown. It's in the name of the Crown that the treaties were signed, and therefore, in living up to the true meaning and intent of the treaties, the Crown will be a participant in that conversation. It will be up to governments in a number of cases to take the specific actions that are required to resolve grievances and see the spirit and intent of the treaties implemented. But the Crown can be of of great assistance in listening and in motivating and in moving this process along. And my impression of my conversations with the new king is that he is acutely aware of this and will want to play a very useful, constructive role.
There are a lot of Canadians who watch to wonder at the lineup of people standing in the walk for line and stay for hours and hours. Can you share your reflections of what it was like to be inside there?
Well, the queues around London, as you can see today, people were queuing up just to get in the line to pass by the front of Buckingham Palace on the chance that a member of the royal family would perhaps be there, and several were. They were queuing up in Green Park to look at all of the bouquets of flowers that had been piled up, literally thousands and thousands of them, and they are queuing in this long lineup now. What is it, 5 miles? Taking maybe 16 and a half or 17 hours to get through the queue in order to get into Westminster Hall and actually view the late Queen's casket on top of the catafalque. It is a very sobering experience. In a way, the ritual and the ceremony around it maybe softens the blow a little bit for people, but still, when you see the lying in state, and I have had the distinct honor now of seeing it twice, on Wednesday and then again today, it drives home the point that this amazing woman who has been on our throne and on the throne of the United Kingdom for more than 7 decades, that dominant presence that was such a model of grace and dignity and hopefulness and kindness, that she is no longer there, that era is over and that a new era has begun. And the reality of that, I think, will take a while to sink in with everyone. We catch ourselves saying Prince Charles instead of His Majesty King Charles and things like that. But it's a profound change, and I think people are gathering in these queues and participating in all these processes and ceremonies to show their respect and their affection for the Queen, for the late Queen, to say thank you in very many ways, and then finally goodbye. And that is a very difficult process for a lot of people who have only known one monarch in their entire lifetimes. And I think quite frankly that little quote in that video from Paddington Bear just captures it very well for these thousands and thousands and thousands of people around London today. Thank you, ma'am, for everything.
What would you say, given the prominence of Canada in many of these events, media perception, for instance, the size of the delegation, the fact that the country's got the first audience with your king, what do you think that says about Canada's relationship with the monarchy or the monarchy's relationship?
Well, I think it shows the depth of the relationship with the late Queen. She often said Canada was her favorite place away from home. She once told an American president when he asked her, "Where are you going next, ma'am?" Her answer was, "I'm going home to Canada." She had a very close relationship, 22 visits, and not in any kind of superficial way. She went into every province, every territory, rural and urban, north, south, east, west. She blanketed the country, and in many ways, she probably understood the country, maybe even better than sometimes we understand ourselves. I think of a speech she gave in Regina back in the early 1970s, and she was describing our multiculturalism, our diversity, our inclusion, and she talked about the gentle nature of Canadian citizenship, and said, if you're a Canadian, you don't ask each other to forsake your inheritance or deny your forebears. All you ask is that you honor and respect the religion and culture of other people, just as you enjoy your own. Well, in about 2 sentences there, she captured the essence of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms almost 10 years before it was written. So I think she had a real deep appreciation of Canada and Canadians. Her interest in Indigenous people was absolutely real. So, and her affection for Canadian institutions like the military, the regiments for which she was the honorary colonel, the association she had with the RCMP. She just loved the fact that she was the honorary commissioner-in-chief of the RCMP. Those things, I think, probably helped to influence the late Queen's affection for Canada and connection to Canada would influence the role that Canada would play. But I think also the very close friendship that the Prime Minister, for example, has developed over the years with what was Prince Charles, is now King Charles. They have worked together on various issues, including environment and climate change.
Prime Minister, hello.
Hello from Canada.
Not to upstage you.
No, not at all. But we're giving her a lift.
Do you think that connection will endure between Charles?
You know, I think it will. I think it started well in the spring when Prince Charles made his visit to celebrate the Platinum Jubilee. It was a short visit, 3 days, but they covered a lot of ground in that space of time, and especially on 2 issues: Canadian diversity, the meeting with the Ukrainian diaspora, for example, and the several meetings with the leadership and in various communities with Indigenous people. That was a very good visit, and I think it augurs well for the future, combined with the long relationship that Prince Charles himself has, not just with Prime Minister Trudeau, but with Canadians generally. His mother was here 22 times. He's been here 19 times, or here being in Canada. So it's got a solid foundation, and I think it's a relationship that will grow.
Concerning Madame Truss tomorrow, Liz Truss, what is your aim, what is your objective with that meeting?
Well, the Prime Minister, our Prime Minister, was here in March and developed a number of agreements with then Prime Minister Johnson about collaboration on Ukraine, for example, building deeper and stronger security and intelligence and defense agreements between Canada and the UK, working on issues like disinformation, for example, which we've seen in spades in the context of Russia's behavior, working on economic interference in democracy, the need for Western democracies to defend themselves and promote our way of governance in a more aggressive way. All of that was good for the foundation between Canada and the UK, but now the Prime Minister here has changed. So it is very important at the very beginning of Prime Minister Truss's government that the Prime Minister of Canada and the Prime Minister of the UK will have an opportunity to look over their agenda, the things that they need to work on together. Undoubtedly, Ukraine will be at the very top of that list. Undoubtedly, they'll talk about their collective plans on issues like climate change. I think they will update the list of things that they need to develop further partnerships on. We've got a free trade negotiation that is underway, as well as the UK is applying to join the CPTPP. And those processes are going forward simultaneously, but they are two separate processes. So synchronizing that activity so that they can both be successful is an extremely important thing to do. The two prime ministers, I think, have a large agenda in common. They have a good relationship to start with because when she was Foreign Secretary, Ms. Truss had a very good working relationship with Melanie Joly. And she was Trade Minister before that, and she had a good relationship with Mary Ng. So building on all of that, the Prime Minister just wants to make absolutely certain we're totally synchronized in how we want to move forward and putting our emphasis in the right place. Good. Thank you all very much. Good. Good to see you.